Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. We have a wonderful week this week, the week of Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles. We are still in Tabernacles, and we will be till the 10th of this month, next week. And then what happens is next week, at the end of Tabernacles festival, we go into 2 days of Simchat Torah, which is rejoicing of the Torah, the giving of the 5 books of Moses. And then after those 2 days, we then conclude the fall festivals. Now the only other festival that comes next in December is the festival of, as you know, Hanukkah. But Hanukkah is not a Torah festival. It's not a commanded one. If you feel like keeping it, you can, and if you don't, you don't have to. It's not commanded, therefore it's optional, just as is the festival in March, which also is optional. It's not one that everyone has to keep. The one that comes before Passover is not optional either. And that is the holiday of Purim, and Purim is also optional. It's an event that occurred in Iran many thousands of years ago. It's something that we celebrate generally as a redemption ceremony for the Jewish people. Things that occurred in Iran when we had Haman and his occurrence with his 10 sons who tried to destroy Israel, or the people of Israel over there in Iran, and the hundreds of provinces of Iran that basically went all the way to Pakistan, parts of India, Pakistan, and some other nations. So that one is optional as well, but I do observe it, but for you, it's not commanded. You don't have to observe it if you don't want to, and if you want to, you can. Same with the Hanukkah. You don't have to observe it. You can if you want to. There's absolutely no harm in it. I do observe it, but again, it's not something that I push at everybody because it's a personal choice. However, these 7 festivals that we just did, the first one that came in the fall was the trumpets. Then we did the Yom Kippur. Then we did this Tabernacles. And so these 3 are the fall holidays or festivals. And then we have 4 others which occur in spring, starting with Passover. So I've asked Eddie to construct or reformat for me the new calendar kindly, and if he's able to do it, I'll be very grateful for him to do that for us, so I can publish the 2024 calendar for Hanukkah, the solar calendar. Once it's done, I will have it for you. So that one's going to be in the pipeline. So perhaps by December we'll have that one done, and then I can publish it either December or January. That's just to let you know on that front. So now this Parsha Ha'azenu is basically to listen, or it represents the ear. And this Parsha in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, verses 1 to 52, if I may, with your permission, it starts with give ear. It starts with give ear, the very word ha'azenu, the ear, to listen. O you Shemaim, O you heavens, and I will speak and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. And this is coming out of the hidden truths Hebraic scrolls, the words of my mouth. And then it goes on. It says, my doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall drip as a dew, as a small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass, because I will publish the name of, then it's the 4 characters which I don't want to speak publicly, because I will publish the name of Hashem, ascribe your greatness to our Supreme One, He is the rock. His work is complete. For all his halachot, for all his commandments, all his good works are righteous. The power of truth, and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Okay, is this how you pray Hashem, O foolish and unwise people? Is not he your father that has brought you? Has he not made you and established you? So this is a 70-word song that was written by Moses. By the way, Moses was my uncle. He wrote, the prophet Moses is a great man, wonderful, wonderful man, righteous man. He wrote this song. And he wrote this song, we're not exactly sure if it was the last day of his death or if it was right close to his death. He wrote this song right close to his death. I won't say it was the last day of his death, as some people might believe that. I personally don't. This is not a song that was written on the last day of his death. It may have been written very close to before he died, and he ascended, and within this Parsha, God instructs him to ascend the Mount of Nebo, which is a mountain in Jordan today. And that is where Moses was shown the land. Moses was told that he could not enter the land because of, some things that God didn't like that Moses did, like striking the rock when he was told to speak to it. And therefore, God showed him the land, the promised land, but did not let him enter it. Now, it doesn't mean that Moses died an unrighteous death. Moses died a righteous death. He was a righteous man in every way. He was a very humble man. The Torah tells us that he was a very, very humble guy. He was actually the most humblest there was. Now, sadly, I have to declare to you that today, what Moses wrote has come to fulfillment right in front of our eyes. I mean, it's not something that I'm making up. The people that were with us that have left this Torah, this writing in black and white proves that what Moses wrote is true today. I mean, look what it says in the song itself. It says, they have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and a crooked generation. Well, those that left Torah and went searching after other gods, then this really fulfills Moses' words that they are a perverse people. They left their spot, meaning that they left the Torah that God gave them and they went wandering to something else which is not Torah, which is not God, which is not truth. Now, people, and I won't name names, but a certain person here used to always talk about facts. Let me tell you something today that is actually very accurate, and that is this. Every fact on this planet can be altered. You can alter it in a second. I can alter you a fact in a second. And you know and I know that statistics, people quote statistics, they love to quote stats, and stats can be manipulated. When governments come into power and they show you economic stats and they try to make themselves look better against the other parties, and they'll manipulate the stats and they'll try to prove that they are better than the previous one. I mean, look at today's government in America. In North America, if they manipulate the stats, they'll say, oh, look, we've created more jobs, we're creating more this and more that, and here is the stats, and we did much better than President Trump. Whilst you and I both know that the reality is a lot different. I'm not saying that I'm a politician or I support politicians, because politicians, they all lie. You and I both know all politicians lie. They are not always on the right track. They have party interests, they have money interests, they have business interests. They all shake hands. Doesn't matter whether they're Democrats, they are Republicans, they are Green Party or something else, or in England like they have Conservative, Labour and whatever else. And if you've been following the Labour and the Conservative shenanigans in England, then you know what happened with the Labour Party, and there was a whole broadcast on Al Jazeera network based on what Al Jazeera was saying, what is called the Labour files, how Labour manipulated, how they used anti-Semitism, how they were anti-Semitic, and other things, you know, so on and so forth. It was all, you know, all their laundry was washed in public on an Arab channel. So this is why, you know, I keep telling you that all politicians shake hands. Doesn't matter what party they belong to. It happens in every country. It's not just a phenomena in UK or USA. It happens in every country. So to say, I mean, let me just, you know, give the credit where credit is due. When Mr. Trump was in power, petrol or gas, as they call it in America, was at, I mean, I myself, I'm not going to quote you media, because media often lies, but I myself saw petrol or gas in Texas at $1.90, and some places I even saw it $1.77 a gallon. $1.77 a gallon. I saw it with my own eyes in parts of Texas. I was passing through Lubbock in Texas, and I was passing through some other areas of Texas. And in those areas that I was passing through, I think it might have been Lubbock or close to there, I did see fuel prices as low as $1.77. And I asked the question, wow, fuel prices are very low over here. And that was because that's an area that produces or maybe refines or does something with the fuel. Or maybe they dig fuel out of the ground, because refineries are mostly in Louisiana on the coastlines. And so fuel prices were very low. Now, if we compare today, and recently I think I was told that fuel prices are around $3.99 or thereabouts, close to $4. Well, if we just look at fuel prices and compare the two governments of Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, the current president, we will see that they are nowhere close to each other. You know, inflation is sky high in the U.S., considering that U.S. produces the oil and the gas. They produce it. Actually, the U.S. sells gas to UK and 39 other nations. We sell gas to 40 nations in the world, yet our gas prices are close to $4, maybe higher in California. And at Mr. Trump's time, they were around, like I said, I personally saw them at $1.77 a gallon. So that just goes to show you, you know, if you just compare fuel prices, and maybe there's many other prices that you can compare, food prices, maybe things like eggs, you know, milk, other things that people use day-to-day basis, you will conclude that the government that Mr. Trump ran was much better for the people than the government that is being run presently. Now, I'm not here to declare or say that one president is evil and the other isn't evil. I'm not saying that. I'm just giving you a general comparison, and you can say, do the same comparison in England, you know, whether Truss's government is better than the government that existed prior to Truss with the other leaders that we had. And you know who those leaders are, like Boris Johnson, and before Boris Johnson, whoever else was in power over there. You can start comparing. You can compare yourself. Out of those leaders that left in the past, I mean, the leaders that were there last year and the year prior in the UK to the leaders that are there today, and you can tell, look at the egg prices, look at the milk prices, go look at the milk prices in Tesco and compare it to milk prices a year ago, and you will know that inflation today in UK is actually running very high, around about, I would say 10% easily, maybe even higher, but they like to manipulate the figures and make you think it's lower. Actually, it's not lower. When you consider that if a milk bottle in Tesco, you know, similar to Walmart, if milk bottle in Tesco Superstore was £1 and let's say 17 pence, and maybe a year ago or less than a year ago it was 1.17, and then, you know, today if it's 1.77, or 180, you work it out. Is that 10%? I mean, if we just round up the figures to 120 versus 180, that's 60 pence difference. So against the pound, just the pound, 60 pence of 120. Work it out. It's easy. It's 50%. 60 times 2 is 120. So it's 50% increase on just milk bottles. Would you then conclude that it is 10% a hike? Or would you conclude that it is 50% hike? So where is inflation technically running? Accurately, I mean, when they say facts, it's all a load of BS. It's not facts. It's lies. It's mistruths. It's misrepresentation. Well, let's call it misrepresentation. Let's put a nice twist to it. We won't call it a lie. We'll call it a misrepresentation. So it looks better. It's politically correct. Misrepresentation of the so-called accuracy on the ground is that just on milk, the prices have shot up 50%. So where is inflation? 50% is where the inflation is in UK. But they'll tell you, oh, it's only 9%. Oh, it's only 8%. Or 10% in Europe, which because I've just put the figures in front of you. If you went out to Tesco supermarket, or if an American family went to Walmart to do their shopping, where they spend $50 in a week to do their shopping, now they'll be spending $80. Okay? That's $30 difference. So what is that? $50 doubled up is 100, okay? That's 200%. So if you paid 80, you're actually paying roughly 55% more. So where does American inflation lie? Around about 55%. Think about it. That's really where the real figures are. So when they tell you, oh, it's 10%, it's 9%, no, it's not. It's not 10%, it's not 9%. The consumer, that is you and I, when we go shopping in these places, we're actually paying 50 to 60% more. And, I'm not making these things up. Just go look it up yourself. Look it up in Tesco, look it up in Walmart. I've been there many times. I have, relatives, I have friends, I have students living there. I have students all over the world. Pretty much many countries I have students. I have students in even as far as China. So my point is this, that my students, I just have to ask a student, say, what's the price in such and such store, and they'll tell me. So my point is this, that I myself have visited these stores when I was there last time, and the prices are not comparable to what's happening today. And when I just sit and work it out, that if something that was 120, 6 months ago or 8 months ago it was 120, and now it's 180, well, 60 pence up, 60 points up to the dollar or to the pound or to the euro, you can tell that inflation actually shot up in your country 50%. Really, that's the honest answer. But if you manipulate the figures like they do, all these political parties, they manipulate figures, and then they'll tell you, oh, inflation only rose 9%, when you know that you're paying out of pocket to go to the shop and stores, and you're paying 50 to 60% more. And Americans are well aware of that. Americans are well aware that when you go to the pump, you're actually paying a lot more for gas. Because I remember last year gas prices where I live in America, Ohio, it was around about $2.59 a gallon. Okay, $2.59 roundabout. Let's just say $2.60 round figure. And today it's around $3.99, $4. So what is that as an increase? 140-cent increase. Okay. Now you can, mathematicians out there can work out what is 140 cent of, of 260. So you can work out what is, the 260 and 140 cent increase. So if fuel prices were 260 and now they have gone to 400, this is $4, then you got 140. Okay, so that will allow you to see what true inflation is, not what the perceived inflation is. True inflation versus perceived inflation. So perceived inflation is what they manipulate the figures and they tell you, but true inflation is what you pay out of your pocket. That's true inflation. So anyway, I mean, enough of statistics and economics, but I just wanted to tell you that beware that the so-called truths and the so-called facts are not facts, they're just totally misrepresentations, and facts can be changed. I just changed it. You know what they tell you on media is facts? I just changed it for you and I just showed you it's not facts. It's totally opposite to what they're telling you. So the same way, I'm coming back to the Torah and telling you the black and white written truth of God. Whether you believe in God or not, it doesn't matter to me whether you believe what's written in the text. I do. I have a complete belief in it without, somebody pointing a gun at me and saying you have to believe it. I believe it fully, and because it's occurring in front of me. I see these facts, so-called, not the world facts, but these sacred truths. I call them sacred truths. These sacred truths are sacred oracles that are given to us. They are coming to fruition right in front of our eyes. They have corrupted themselves. Verse 5, Deuteronomy 32. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. His children mean God's children. For they are perverse and crooked generation. We have this in front of us. Rabbis chasing after what? Handmade deities? Handmade gods? Come on, please. Give me a break. When so-called teachers who claim to be teachers start doing that, then you got to wonder what the heck is going on. It's a sad state of affairs. It says in verse 7, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your father. Well, how are you going to ask your father when he doesn't even know what the hell Torah is? Ask your father and he will show you your elders and they will tell you. Who is your elders? Who is your father? Well, if your father never touched the Torah, if he was a Christian or something else, he is not going to tell you. However, in the past, when the Torah is speaking about the father, it was those fathers of children of Israel who actually came up studying Torah. It was the elders that were like the rabbis and the priests, the Kohanim. They were your elders. It is talking about those fathers that were brought up in Torah. Are you brought up in Torah? Probably not. Likely that you probably were brought up in Christianity or some other faith, and then later in life you realize that when you've been through the run, of the mill, you realize that this doesn't seem to be true for me. These things are not coming to pass that these books are telling me, but only the ones. So you turn back to the Torah. If you today are following the words of Moses, then that means you turn back to the Torah. You turn back and you said, something's not right where I am today. So I got to turn back. So when you turn back and you started to read and analyze and study and became a student of Torah, and we are all students of Torah, and you started to study it and you said, wow, I've been so misled all these years. I've got to turn back to God. That is turning back to God. That is turning back to yourself, your true self. Because remember, if the kingdom of heaven is within you, according to Yeshua, according to Jesus of Nazareth, if the kingdom of heaven is within you, then surely you've got to turn to God to find that kingdom. And if you keep turning to this, that, and the other, you will never find the kingdom. Let me give you a testimony today. I want to give you a testimony today of a student in the East, and I want to tell you clearly what happened to him, because he's also in this, that, and the other, and balonies, that I tell him not to be. You know what he does? He would be worshipping. I should use the word worship. Maybe that is the right word. Or maybe I could use another word to be mild to him. His foot is in Hinduism. His foot is in Hinduism because he believes that the so-called these deities of Hinduism are true, or at least they have some kind of power. Okay, let's call that some kind of power. He also believes that the God of Abraham is true. So he's neither, he's kind of in the middle. He's neither here nor there. He's all over the place. Now, recently, as recent as last week, in fact, I'll probably say this week, not too long ago, 3-4 days ago, his wife gave birth to a daughter, a beautiful girl. And guess where he goes to find out what name to keep? Now, he wants to put a biblical name, but he goes and draws the chart, the birth chart from Hinduism. And then he picks up the idea that somehow he has got to put his daughter's name starting with B. So he writes to me and says to me that, Rabbi, I want to put a B name, and he gives me some example, or he asks me some examples of Hebrew names from the Bible, and asked me whether to keep those B names. And one of those names was Bitiya. Bitiya he didn't even know how to pronounce it right. So he pronounces it wrong, and then he asked me, and I told him, no, this is not how it's pronounced. It's actually Bitiya, and it was a reference as a daughter of Pharaoh. And there were some other names, like Blessing is a name. And so he says to me that, but I ask him a question. I say, hang on a minute. Why do you want to put the B as a name? My question is the Torah or the Bible has A to Z names, many names of girls, beautiful names. I said, why do you want to use B? Oh, Rabbi, because it came out of the Indian chart, the Hindu chart that he drew. They call it Kundali. Some of you might understand the word Kundali. So he draws a Kundali. He goes on the internet and does a Kundali and says her name should begin with B. And I tell him, I said, stop this foolishness. Stop this bullshit. This foolishness you're into. Haven't you learned your lesson yet? That your house is falling apart. You can't even pay your electricity bill. You idiot. Look at yourself. You go after these so-called deities and they can't give you zilch. They can give you nothing. They're giving you nothing. Every time you struggle, you come to me, oh, please, I need some money to pay my bill. Give me a loan. I said, haven't you learned your lesson yet? I said, learn your lesson. There is only one God. There is only one power. And yes, there may be other powers below, because this is what we were told. We were told, do not follow after other gods or other powers, because they do exist. They're lower powers. They don't have the same effect. They cannot prosper you. I said, if you believe that Lakshmi is going to give you money, Lakshmi is an Indian goddess. If you believe she's going to give you money, you're mistaken, because she hasn't come to you yet. Where is your Lakshmi? Lakshmi doesn't necessarily mean just the goddess of the Indian people. It also means Lakshmi is a general term in the East used for money. I said, if you're waiting for Lakshmi, money basically, I said, it hasn't come to you. So if the Lakshmi goddess is giving you money, technically, if that's what you believe, then your belief is foolishness, because she never gave you the money, because you don't even have the bill money to pay. And who do you come to pay your bill? They were going to cut his meter off. And he came to me to borrow a loan to pay his meter bill, otherwise it's going to be cut the next day. I said, who do you come to? You come to the Kohen and you ask him to give you your bill money. So who am I serving? Who is the Kohen serving? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I said, shame on you. Shame on your behavior. I said, look at what you're doing. You go and you search these kundalis and you find your wife, according to Indian mythology and legends, and your wife turns out to be no good for you. As soon as this woman comes into his life, my goodness, he has financial problems left, right, and center. She gets possessed of demons. He has financial problems. He has this and that and the other and the third. Everything you can think of under the sun he gets. And he is financially squeezed. Yet he doesn't learn his lesson. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and a crooked generation. That's why I don't have nothing to do with these people any longer. That's why I want to separate myself. You know, I give them opportunities, I give them chance, and I give them plenty of chance to fix themselves. And what do? They go chasing after other deities all over the place. So, this is why it's very important. It is very important, my students and my followers and the followers of Torah, the students of Torah. It says in verse 15, but Yeshurun waxed fat and kicked. You're waxen fat. You're grown thick. You're covered with fatness. And then he forsook Elohim, who made him the rock of his salvation. Wow, my goodness. This word is absolutely true for a person who recently left us. He waxed fat. He became prosperous through the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what does he do? He goes and chases after some other deity. He forsook Elohim. Now, was Moses writing lies? Or was Moses writing an oracle, a truth that's going to fulfill many times in our generations? This to me, is wow. It is like out of this world. And it says they provoked him to jealousy with strange powers, with ritual defilement. They provoked him to anger. Who? The God of Abraham, of course. They sacrificed to demons, not to powers whom they knew not, to new powers. They came up newly up, whom your fathers, whom your Ahavoth feared not. Of the rock that gave you birth, what a shame, what a shame. The God that gave you birth, you did not support that God. You did not follow that God, but you followed a demon, a mispower, a demonic, unclean. Demon is just an unclean power. It doesn't matter if it's a male, female, or, neither. In the middle, it's a demonic power. Remember that woman I just told you about? That student? His wife was actually possessed by a demon. Now, what does it say here? They sacrifice to demons. So if the husband goes chasing after deities that have no authority, no power, what does the wife get? The wife gets a demon. Isn't that lesson enough that you are going the wrong way? When we go on a motorway, and I've been on a motorway many times, and probably you have as well. What you call Route 69, Route 71 in America. We call motorway in the UK. They call it a motorway. When you're on a motorway and you want to get off at junction 20, and on the M1, I used to travel on the M1 a lot, and I used to get off junction 20. Because that was where my stop-off was, and then you missed it, and I ended up at junction 20. Then I would have to get off at junction 21. Now, I lived in a place called Aylesbury, a small town back in the UK, Buckinghamshire. But if I missed my junction 20 and I carried on the next junction 21, 22, and 23, 24, etc. Guess where I'll end up? I'll end up somewhere maybe close to Birmingham or in Birmingham, which is going completely the wrong direction. And after Birmingham will be Leicester. And after Leicester, Derbyshire maybe or something else. So my point is this. My point is very simple. If I took the wrong turn, if I didn't make junction 20 to Buckinghamshire, and I ended up going to junction 21, 22, 23, and I'm now going towards Birmingham, I would get off and I'll say, you know what? I made a mistake. I need to turn back and come back to junction 20. Let's just use junction 20 as a Torah. I need to come back to Torah. But what do these people are doing? They don't get off at junction 20. They're going to junction 30, and then they continue going until they're completely destroyed. until they will be completely destroyed. You are hearing me today, and I will set the testimony for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will set the testimony, just as Moses did, that these people who left, they will be destroyed. And I'm not saying it out of the unkindness of my heart. I'm telling you out of the judgment that comes from heaven. Because that is what it says over here. So I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that, it's going to be all rosy and everything is going to be great. No, it's not going to be great for those people. Because it says here, they provoked him to jealousy with strange powers. And actually in your King James Version it says, with abomination. And the word can be easily translated too with ritual defilement. Because when you go after other deities, you ritually defile yourself. You become totally unclean. And nothing works for you. Everything breaks down. Exactly what happened to my student in the East who started to follow after all these myriads of Indian deities. 1 minute he's chasing Ram, and the next minute he's chasing Lakshmi, and then he's chasing Parvati, and then he's going after Durga Mata, and then he's after some maybe Ganesha, and maybe then he's after somebody else. My point is this: I have experienced this firsthand. I have seen them all. I have tested them. They do not have the power that the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob has. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the one and only power that is the most powerful on this planet Earth and beyond, that we haven't, those planets that we've never been to yet, and the galaxies we don't know about yet, which maybe we'll come to know in 100 years. I am telling you the only true power that I know of, that I've tested, that has worked for me and many of my students, is the only one power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Abraham. It's the only power I know that works. I do not know of any other power that works as good, as clean, as neat. So, make a decision. Listen. Because what is this Parsha? Ha'azenu talks about listen, or heavens. So at the drasha level, give ear, O you Shemaim. Who is he saying give ear? He's saying give ear to you. You represent the Shemaim. Where is the Shemaim? The Shemaim is supposed to be within you. Well, then it's calling you. It's telling you to hear the words of God and embed them within your heart. Look, what is in our heart? We have the heart chakra, the heart center. When the only words that I entertain are the words of God in my heart, in my soul, in my mind. The mind has, our mind, if we just went location and we said the head, then the head has at least two centers, the crown center, the crown chakra, and it has the third eye center, or the third eye chakra. Those two very important centers. The third eye forms your intuition. The third eye can also be, spiritually speaking of, can be used as the conduit of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit can, that's the area that the Holy Spirit can use to talk to you, to guide you. It's a very important center of your body. So when your centers are corrupted and they're going and chasing after the wrong things, are they really going to listen to God? Are you going to listen to God? Do you have the capacity to listen to God? I don't think so. I don't care how clever you think you are. I don't care if you think you got a degree in mathematics, or you're a PhD, or you got MBBS, or you got FRCS, and you're a great doctor, or you're a neurosurgeon. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are in your letters. Your letters can be A to Z. Yet, if you make this one mistake, then you make many mistakes down the road. So fix your mistake. Fix your mistake. Because in verse 20 of this chapter it says, and he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very perverse generation, children in whom there is no faith. They moved me to jealousy with L. They have enraged me to anger with their futilities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with the nation that is slow to learn. For a fire is kindled in my anger, and shall burn to the lower Sheol, the lowest hell, we call it hell or grave, and they shall consume, and it shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will increase their disasters. I will spend mine arrows and upon them. So is that true for my student? Yes. Yes. Sadly, yes, it is true for him. I will increase their disasters. I will spend my arrows upon them. Listen to me. My student in the East, his wife that he took her against my instructions. I told him not to marry this woman. He still went ahead and married her. She was a pastor's daughter. I told him stay away from this family. No. He listened to his mother. His mother said, oh yeah, okay, go ahead, marry this girl. And he did. And you know what happened? Since he's married this girl, it's not even been 1 year yet. It'll be 1 year in December this year. It's only been maybe 10 months at the most. This is the 11th month, by the way. So not 11th, it's 10th month. Because he's got his child. But ever since that woman came into his life, disaster upon disaster. She keeps falling, getting electric shocks in the home. She fell 3-4 times. She got a demon possession. Then he's spending his money. Boom, boom, boom. He almost sold his fridge freezer because he didn't have the money. He sold his home things to, he was lacking finances. He came to me to borrow money 2 or 3 times. I lent him money. And now finally, he couldn't pay his electricity bill. And he was owed 3 months of bill, and I helped him. And now he's going to pay me that money back within the next, 2-3 months. My point, I'm sorry, I'm not a bank here to lend money to people, but he was in such a disaster. I felt pity for him, but if he don't listen and carry on down that path, that'll be it. I will let him go. I'll tell him, get lost and stay away. I haven't got time for you. That's what happens when people don't listen. Because, sometimes you can help somebody, but I'm not here as a bank. Go and borrow money from the credit cards. Go borrow money from the banks. And, the banks won't even lend them money at this point. So I'm just giving you an example of what disasters befalling one person. And if you're going to continue to serve after other fake gods, then you are rightly going to be served destruction. Because what does God say? What does our Torah say? Am I telling you the truth or what? Are these the real facts or what? This is eternal truth. I will increase their disasters. So that means if you don't change his direction, his disasters won't stop. I was talking to another one of my students, a Muslim guy, real righteous man. And I was talking to him and he said to me, Rabbi, he said, you know what? I do not see this person changing. He knows his student in the East. He says, I don't see him changing because he made wrong decision after wrong decision. You told him not to do it. He still didn't listen. And you told him again not to do this and do something different. And he continued to follow that path. And look where he is today. He's basically getting disaster after disaster. And he said to me, let's hope that his daughter that is born to him will bring a blessing in his house. And I told him, I said, we have a saying in America, and the saying is this, the fruit does not fall far from the tree. I said, do not expect the daughter to change everything to blessing. No. When the parents are not following the truth, the real truth, what is the truth? Torah. When the parents are not following Torah, disasters will increase. They will not benefit even with their daughter. I said, I'll write it for you. I said, I will write it for you. And if I'm wrong, you can come back to me and say to me, you wrote it and you were wrong. And I will accept it. I said, I will write it to you. His disasters will continue to increase. His daughter cannot change his course. Although we can say we hope, but us hoping is not going to help him. Why? Because his course hasn't changed. He's still following after this, that, and the other Indian deities. So that's not going to. I said until he truly, wholeheartedly, until he devotes himself. Listen, God says, I'm a devoted El. I'm a devoted God to the children of Israel. If God is devoted to us, should we not be devoted to him? And this is what Feast of Tabernacles is about. It's about us rejoicing, being happy that God is our master. We are going to be called a nation that is wise. Why? Because we have the laws of the Torah in front of us. Those laws direct us, guide us, how to live our life, what to eat, what not to eat, how to behave, how to be in the nations. Torah is beautiful. And at the end of this festival, we conclude with rejoicing of the Torah. It's just beautiful. Baruch Hashem. So with that, I'll encourage you all to think very carefully of your actions. Think very carefully of what actions you are doing today, because those actions will dictate your tomorrow. If your actions are wrong, if your actions are chasing after other gods, then you need to tell yourself, if you've done your testing, maybe you're testing it. Maybe you're saying, hey, let me go after Krishna and see if Krishna is real. And you've done your testing and nothing happened for you. Things actually got worse than better. Now, are you willing to come back now to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Or do you want to now try Jesus maybe? Now you're going to try Jesus and say, let me try Jesus next. And after Jesus, I'll try something else. So it has to stop somewhere. It has to stop. Because if it doesn't stop, your disasters will increase. And you will end up being spent. And you may not have the time to turn around. You may end up dying. And by the way, one of my students died last night in another city, and I give thanks for him, because you know what? All his life he was brought up in Christianity, and he died in Torah. Baruch Hashem. What a righteous death. He died, he showed his family that he's gonna serve Torah, and that this is where the truth is. He said, I'm gonna serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the God I'm going to serve. And he taught his children. And he was ill. The man was ill for a while. And his son just wrote to me this morning saying, my father succumbed to his illness because he was very, very poorly in his illness. And he came to me very late. He came to me only, the last 2-3 months ago. But he was very ill. I went and visited him. He was in a bad position. I tried to comfort him and help him, met his family, and the only problem was that his illness had got very advanced. And last night it overcame him, and he passed on to the next world. But Baruch Hashem, that may his soul rest in peace and return soon, because he died in Torah. He showed his family Torah. He said, listen, follow this. This is the truth. This is where our rest is. And what a righteous man that before he died, he showed his children the right path. At least his children, his sons, he's got 2-3 sons, he's got daughters. They will remember that our father showed us the truth before he died, and they will follow it. I spoke to his son, elder son, and he's definitely very, very hot for Torah. He doesn't want to follow anything else. So, be hot for Torah. Be, circumspect with things you do. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we do wrong things. But we must always know where our rest is. Put ear. The ear in Hebrew terminology, it means the priest, the Kohanim. Listen to the priests. If you listen to the priest, the Kohen in your gate, that's where your blessings are. That's full stop. That's where the altar of God is. And if you don't, then disasters will increase. And Baruch Hashem that we can hear, we can learn, and we can do. Be happy that you're in Torah. Be happy with your lives. God will bless you tremendously. If you continue down this path, you will be blessed tremendously with Torah in your life. As you listen to my guidance, as I guide you in how to address your lives, how to benefit yourselves, how to do things to benefit your lives, what things to place in your homes, how to benefit from those things in your homes. All of that is going to come from the Torah. It's going to come through me, the coin and the gate. So be circumspect. Enjoy yourselves. Be happy with your families. Love your families. Don't compromise on love. Love your families, but love with caution. Because there are members of the family that are all over the place. They're neither here nor there. So love doesn't mean that you waste your energy after them. Don't waste your energies after those relatives that do not benefit your overall life. It is better to sit down all day and meditate on your affirmations, do your affirmations and meditate on those things than to spend time with loved so-called relatives that are only gonna be a detriment to your life. So love does not mean to love foolishly. Love means to love with caution. Love with generosity, but love with caution. Pull back from those people that are no good to you, that only waste your time, that only waste your energy. Serve your energies to better your lives. And Torah will better your lives. I told you many times, do the prayers daily from the Siddur. The Forever-Israel Siddur is a fantastic book. It's a fantastic prayers in it. Read them, because they will open up things for you that you didn't know can happen. They will bless you tremendously. With that, have a wonderful time, and I will say Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful festival. Until next week, have a great week ahead. Shalom, shalom.